Welcome back, my friends, once again to Drak Reviews, and this time around we're taking on a title that I know a few people have wanted me to look into, especially since I don't have a necessarily big like for the series, and I don't know if it actually needed a sequel. So today we're going to be taking on Mirror's Edge Catalyst from DICE Studios, or DICE Games. And I really wish I had great things to say about it. Let me actually go ahead and start with my thoughts on the previous game, because people have already also asked that too. I played the original Mirror's Edge maybe a couple of years ago, not when it came out, and my thoughts are very simply, I didn't like it very much. I thought it was an overwhelmingly average game. Its plot was horribly predictable, its animated cutscenes were kind of dumb, and its overall story was dumb, in the fact that the government was trying to create evil runners. Or at least that's what I got out of it. To be able to move the plot along for Faith, the main character. And when they announced Mirror's Edge Catalyst at E3 2015, I will admit I was skeptical. I was not sure if this series would have as much potential as DICE thinks it has, although I do know a few people that were absolutely excited when this game got announced, and actually wanted me to tackle it on for a review. So, here it is. Let's go ahead and just start things from the beginning and go into the story. The story, I already have a couple of problems, but the basic premise of it is, and I've seen some debate online as to whether or not it's supposed to be a prequel or a retelling of the first game, or a retelling of the origins kind of thing. Like, this is supposed to take the original Mirror's Edge and say that doesn't exist, and here's what actually does exist. Okay? That being said, I didn't like the original, and I'm actually going to go off of the premise that this is a reboot, because a lot of the evidence in the game kind of points to it being a reboot of the series. So we get the origin of Faith Connors, the main character, and how her parents died in the middle of a riot, and she was actually in charge of her sister at the time, and they got separated, and she assumed that every one of them was dead. I'm being vague here for a reason, people, because we're going to have some reveals. And I'm actually not going to worry about spoiling the plot at this point, because the game's been out for a couple of months by now. You've probably already seen it. So we actually catch up to Faith when she is getting out of a prison facility, for lack of a better word, for being a runner. And a runner is a person who is outside of society. I want to say that they have an important, like, they will run packages to people, but really the purpose of the runner that I've gotten from the two games is that they are outside of the society that is the norm. That's really what they are. They are fighting the power. Yeah, get used to that, people, because I'm going to be saying that a lot. And so she gets back in contact with her runner companion. She doesn't care that she's on probation and she's not supposed to run with him. She starts running again. And through that, she actually has a couple of other unresolved issues with other organizations that she starts taking care of. So she's got some debts to a man named Dogan that she's trying to help him out, trying to sell him a unique plan that might be able to get her out of the hot water she's in with Dogan. She's also dealing with her, I guess, former employer as a runner, Noah, and him trying to tell her to ease back up, to not get as invested in things that she does, because she's a very justice-minded person, apparently. And then finally, the other character that we deal with a lot, aside from the villain, is, I think her name is Rebecca, and she is leading a terrorist faction, and I'm not even going to beat around the bush. It's a terrorist faction because she actually wants to take not vengeance, but she wants to seize their rights, for lack of a better term, from the conglomerates, all of the corporations that run this new utopia. And so the way that she goes about that is through violence. So terrorism. The other character that we deal with is the villain, which is Gabriel Kruger, and he is the CEO of KrugerSec, or Kruger Security. So you'll be dealing with a lot of his soldiers throughout the game, called KSEC. And so he's kind of the villain, but he also has his daughter Isabel, whom will play a little bit later in, but she's, for lack of a better term, very loyal daughter, loyal protector to Gabriel Kruger. Well, as Faith starts running again, she starts realizing that there's probably more to her parents' death than she ever knew. It turns out that her mother was working on a secret project called Reflection, which in turn is... People say Star Trek has bad technobabble, but this is bad technobabble. Nanomachines that control your emotions, for lack of a better term. Basically to do mind control upon the masses. Okay? It's later revealed after Noah gets killed, because they have the schematic for Reflection accidentally. That's actually what Faith is trying to sell Dogen, and she didn't know that. They kill off Noah, and so she has to actually go stay with Rebecca, but Rebecca decides that she is going to kidnap Isabel Kruger, and it's later revealed through that kidnapping that Isabel Kruger is actually Faith's sister, Kat. Now, Faith had a sister in the original game too, named Kat. I believe she was a detective in the police precinct that they dealt with a lot. Anyway, so we have that reveal, and then we also have the whole concept that Reflection is trying to take over, or Gabriel Kruger is trying to take over the world and make sure that nobody falls out of line ever again. And we go into the final battle. We stop Reflection. Kruger is hurt in the process, and we have our showdown between Isabel and Faith, and now they know who they are. It may seem like I'm being vague on this. It's kind of because the game was. So I'm not going to give good marks to the story of Mirror's Edge Catalyst. If anything, I will give it marks in the fact that where the previous game was horribly predictable, I saw like every twist and turn as soon as they happened, or even before they happened, is what I'm saying. This one actually had some surprises I didn't expect. So it is going to get a little bit of leniency there, but the whole story of fighting the power through running and through delivering packages, just, it's not working for me. And frankly, I think that the story is so open-ended that you could literally insert anything in there that would be more interesting than runners, and it would probably improve the story. So with that being said, let's move on into the visuals. And it's one of those things where it's a AAA game. It looks very pretty, and I can't deny that. It looks great. The only complaint that I had with it was the color scheme. A majority of the city is white, and when they bring in color into it, it's almost like painstakingly out in there and in your face. And when it came to things like red, which red is used a lot with like tutorials and things like that, it actually got on my nerves, created headaches, made me mad, kind of thing. So I actually think that this whole color scheme that they're trying to do in Mirror's Edge, where it was interesting and inventive in the first game, now it's starting to become a real nuisance. And even though this game is very, very pretty, I had lots of problems with the visuals. I had lots of problems with all the buildings being made of glass and being straight white until you had your tutorial thing come up. Now people will think I'm going to actually give it marks for that. No, because that was a personal thing. I don't know if everybody else dealt with that. So I'm actually going to take off a little bit, but not a lot, just because the visuals still look really good. This looked futuristic, despite my issues with it. What those parts of the visuals affected that actually frustrated me more was gameplay, and I gave major marks down for gameplay. When I played the original Mirror's Edge, I was not a fan of the gameplay. I thought it was a cool idea. First-person platformer, in essence. A parkour platformer. And the first game didn't deliver on that. In fact, the gameplay, for me, felt horribly broken, and felt like certain elements should have been implemented but weren't. In particular, a legit combat system that allowed for me, not through luck, because I believe that the only way you would be able to grab weapons was through luck. It should have just been able to be done through a combo kind of thing. And I know that the people are going to come out on the comments right now and say, no, you could totally do it. You just don't know how. No, you know what? I tried to do everything that the game told me to do in that first game to get that to happen. It never did. So I'm not accepting that. And in essence, the funniest thing is this game actually tried to implement a combat system, and I was happy about it until I got my hands on the combat system. And I don't like it at all, especially when this game also tries to encourage stealth. So basically what you're trying to tell me is that I am going to have to parkour a bunch of people instead of, like, try to avoid them. And trust me, the game actually gave me options where there was no other choice than to fight. If I'm going to have to stealth my way through this game, basically what I'm trying to say is pick one. Am I going to have to stealth? Am I going to have to do combat? If I'm going to have to do combat, you need to work on this combat system. Because I can't even believe that I'm saying this. At least the first game had some semblance of a combat system that worked. This one had problems up the wazoo, and most of it was because you had to unlock later talents that fixed those issues. No. Your basic combat system should not be hindered by a talent system, by anything. It should just be a basic combat system. What the talents are supposed to do is enhance that. And they didn't in that case. I actually spent all the talents that I could get, and I did not see the gameplay improve by any stretch. It still had the same problems that the previous game did. And at this point, that's on DICE. Because DICE was told very clearly, you need to fix these elements, and they didn't. I actually think in some cases in Catalyst, they made them worse. So yes, I took major marks off of the gameplay. This actually was more painful to play through than the original Mirror's Edge. Moving on to the audio, because I'm trying to keep these things short. I've been saying this with TMNT as well. This is another game where the music was not all that great. It was okay. It's just not great. It didn't stand out. The voiceover work, it's okay, but it's not great. Especially since in some cases, everybody was playing Serious Guy. So I want to be able to call out the developers of the music as well as the voice actors. There isn't really anything awesome to call out here. It was all just overwhelmingly meh. And therefore, I did take points off of audio simply based on the fact that I wasn't seeing any genuine emotions. Like, Faith emitted a few, but nothing aside from what I would expect from that character. And everybody else was, I'm either serious or I'm angry all the time. Even where we got a quirky character named Plastic, she was still very serious and almost Sheldon Cooper-esque in her viewpoint. So yeah, I took marks off to audio. I just thought it was overwhelming. It was meh, for lack of a better term. And going into replay value and presentation, yes, there is replay value in this game. I don't think there's a whole heck of a lot, though. So you can go through the main plot, but there are also side missions that you can take on in the meantime that will help you get more points, help you get more talents, help you be able to overall improve your stats, be able to get some Easter eggs in the game. But after I played the main story, I just wasn't interested. I didn't want to do any of those side missions. I didn't want to test how well I could run in the city. I didn't want to do any of that. So I will say that yes, while there is replay value in the game, it isn't very existent to me. Presentation, does this all come together? Obviously, it comes together to form where I would actually say Mirror's Edge was kind of good. This one's just meh. It's okay. It's a little above average, but it's mostly meh. And therefore, I have to give it a final score of 6 out of 10. It's average as far as I'm concerned. This is a D in every sense of the word. There's nothing that makes this game stand out as far as I am concerned, and people can say I'm biased because of my viewpoints on the original game. I made it very clear what I thought needed to be fixed, and they actually made some of those elements worse in this game, so it was really hard to make my way through it. So yeah, 6 out of 10. Sorry, guys. I really wanted to like this. I really wanted them to be able to do a better game than they did previously, but they didn't. And that wraps up my review for Mirror's Edge Catalyst, and I'm also going to say, that's Strike 2, DICE. Strike 2. I have a feeling that there's probably going to be another Mirror's Edge game in the future, if not a couple of years down the road. If that one's crap too, I'm done with the series. I've said it before, like, I'm usually a 3-strike kind of guy when it comes to series, and I'm going to stick to this one and hope that the third game fixes all of the problems. But right now, DICE has not really given me a whole lot of faith in them. So that's going to go ahead and do it. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I'm sorry that I was completely negative on this one. I was really tempted to make this a rant, but I tried to stay as non-biased as I could, but explaining my issues with the game. And that's going to go ahead and do it. So, of course, my friends, I will see you guys next time for the next video.